On January 6, 2021, a flag of a defeated country crossed the line its army never did. The Confederate battle flag, retired more than 150 years earlier, was carried through the halls of the United States Capitol. The Civil War decided that symbol would never rule here, and yet there it was, in the heart of American power. The Confederacy lost the war, it lost its government, it lost its land, but it never fully lost its flag, and it isn't alone. Spain's forgotten Purple Republic still marches at protests. South Africa's Apartheid banner is now legally considered hate speech. Yugoslavia's Red Star waves at concerts, even though the country it stood for vanished 30 years ago. The Soviet hammer and sickle is worn in the West as fashion, and in the East as nostalgia. Some of these symbols are banned, others are celebrated. Some migrate across borders, adopted by people they were never meant to represent. So what happens when a flag outlives the nation behind it? That's the journey we're taking today, through the origins of flags, their rise as symbols of identity, and the vanished banners that still shape the world we live in. Before we get to the purple stripes and hammer and sickles, let's rewind. Flags weren't invented as patriotic symbols, they started as tools. 2,000 years ago, the Romans carried vexilla, square pieces of cloth hung from a crossbar, to mark each legion in battle. Think of them as giant medieval GPS markers. In ancient China, armies paint dragons on banners so soldiers knew where to rally. These weren't about national pride, they were about survival and coordination. But over time, banners became emblems of authority. Plant one, and you weren't just saying, "My army's over here." You were saying, "This castle, this ship, this land, it belongs to us." The world's oldest surviving national flag is Denmark's Dannebrog, a white cross on red, first recorded in the 1200s. From there, flags spread across Europe, often evolving from coats of arms. By the 19th century, every modern nation had one, and once a symbol stands for millions of people, its power doesn't vanish easily. Flags are shortcuts for identity. A few colours, a simple design, recognisable from a hilltop away, can unify strangers who have nothing else in common. That's why armies, ships and crowds use them. Raising one says, "We exist, we belong." Lowering one says, "We've been defeated." And that's why flags have always been tied to power shifts. When governments fall, the flag almost always changes first. But the story doesn't stop there. Sometimes the old banners refuse to disappear. Take Spain. For centuries, its flag was red and yellow, the monarchy's colours. But when the monarchy fell in 1931, the new republic wanted something different. They added a bold purple stripe to the bottom. It was said to represent Castile, ordinary citizens excluded from centuries of royal power. Historians point out the colour may actually have been based on a mix-up in medieval sources, more crimson than true violet, but the symbolism stuck. It was a flag of democracy, a promise of change. But democracy collapsed. Spain descended into civil war in 1936, and when General Franco seized power in 1939, the purple flag was banned. The red and yellow returned, now stamped with authoritarian emblems. Today though, the purple tricolour still shows up at protests. Some wave it as a hope for the Third Republic, others see it as unfinished business. An old flag, nearly a century gone, but still part of Spain's arguments over who they are. Now, South Africa. For much of the 20th century, its flag looked cheerful at first glance. Orange, white and blue, with miniature versions of older colonial flags in the centre. But it was the flag of apartheid, a system of racial segregation that defined South Africa's politics for generations. When apartheid ended in 1994, Nelson Mandela and the new government wanted a clean break. The solution was the Rainbow Nation flag, green, black, gold, red, blue and white, all converging in a Y shape. A design chosen to represent unity and diversity. The old flag is now legally classified as hate speech. A 2019 court ruling made it clear: display it publicly and you're promoting white supremacy. Unlike Spain, where the old flag lingers, South Africa buried theirs, deliberately and decisively. But what happens when the country itself disappears? Yugoslavia was a federation of 6 republics. Its red, white and blue tricolour with a bold red star symbolised socialist unity. In the 1990s, that unity fractured in brutal wars. Today, its former republics, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and North Macedonia all fly their own flags. And yet, the Yugoslav flag lives on. You'll find it at concerts, in nostalgic clubs, on retro t-shirts. For older generations, it's stability. For younger ones, sometimes just vintage cool. A country gone, a flag that refuses to die. Some flags don't die, they migrate. Rhodesia, today's Zimbabwe, was ruled by a white minority regime in the 1960s and 70s. Its flag was a green-white-green, vertical tricolour, with the country's coat of arms in the centre. When Zimbabwe was born in 1980, the flag was banned, but far-right groups abroad adopted it. In Britain, South Africa, even in the United States, you might have spotted it at rallies, or even in internet memes. And it's not alone. Colonial-era flags still spark debate in New Zealand and Australia, where the Union Jack remains on the national banner. New Zealand even held a referendum in 2016, but voted to keep it. The flag itself becomes a referendum on history. What to honour, what to retire, and who gets to decide. In the United States, the most infamous case may be the Confederate battle flag. It wasn't even the Confederacy's official national flag. It was a battlefield banner, one of many. But after the Civil War, it was resurrected by segregationists, by the Ku Klux Klan, and later by pop culture. To some, it's framed as heritage. To others, it's inseparable from racism and violent exclusion. It's been removed from multiple state capitol grounds, most famously South Carolina in 2015, dropped by NASCAR in 2020, and condemned after the 2021 Capitol riot. And yet, it keeps coming back. Because just like Spain's purple tricolour, the conflict it represented never really ended. Now, a very different story. East Germany had its own black, red, yellow flag with a hammer and compass in the middle. For a time in the 1960s, West Germany banned its display, calling it unconstitutional. But when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989 and reunification followed, the East German flag disappeared almost overnight. Today it survives mostly in museums or in retro nostalgia called nostalgia. A rare case, a flag that faded quickly, quietly, and without much resistance. The Soviet flag is different. It didn't fade. The hammer and sickle on red is one of the most recognisable symbols of the 20th century. When the USSR collapsed in 1991, Russia brought back its older tricolour. But the Soviet flag still flies, in Moscow protests, in European rallies. For some, it's nostalgia. For others, it's trauma. A country gone, but its flag refusing to disappear. Not every vanished flag is heavy with history. Some are just strange. Libya under Muammar Gaddafi had a flag that was simply green. No stripes, no symbols, just green. It lasted for 40 years, and when Gaddafi fell in 2011, it disappeared instantly. Czechoslovakia's story is even stranger. The country dissolved in 1993, but its flag didn't. The Czech Republic simply kept it. In this case, the flag outlived the nation. And then there are the flags of short-lived revolutions, like Hungary's 1956 uprising, when protesters literally cut out the communist emblem out of the centre, leaving a hole in the national flag. And of course, the most infamous cases, Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. The swastika is outright banned in Germany and much of Europe, while Japan's rising sun flag remains legal but deeply controversial in Asia, especially in Korea and China. Each one a reminder, flags are never static, they're alive, and sometimes they're improvised. So what happens to old flags? Some are buried forever, others are resurrected in protests. Some survive as nostalgia, and a few turn toxic, adopted by movements their creators never imagined. Because a flag is never just fabric, it's identity, its memory, its ideology condensed into cloth. And when a country disappears, the flag doesn't always go with it. Sometimes it's the last piece left standing. The nation may fall, but the flag almost never dies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.